Hi everyone, my name is Julia Bonadil. I'm a law student at UC Berkeley and co-leader of operations at Brazil at Silicon Valley. I'm super excited to introduce to our next AI showcase, this time focused on the legal market, with the presentation from Pedro Jahara, who will introduce his company Lexter AI. Pedro is the CEO and co-founder of Lexter AI, an AI agent for Latin lawyers. He has experience in consulting at Bain and has been a tech entrepreneur for over a decade with successful ventures in the AD tech and ML spaces. He's passionate about using AI to create value for business and society and holds a bachelor degree in industrial engineering from the University of São Paulo. Please welcome to our stage, Pedro.
Tudo bom? Hi, everyone. I'm Pedro Jahara. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Lexter. Really excited to be here. So at Lexter, we're empowering lawyers with AI. So we're going to talk about lawyers. I'll try to make this not too boring. So just first question, please raise your hand if you're a lawyer here. Right. Some lawyers. I'm not a lawyer. I'm a software engineer, but my co-founder is a lawyer. So let's talk a little bit before talking about Lexter. Let's talk about the Brazilian legal system. So in Brazil, there's about 1.5 million lawyers. That's the most lawyers per capita globally. Also, Brazil spends about 1.6% of its GDP on the judiciary. The global average is just 0.3%. Last year, there were about 34 million new lawsuits filed. And not only that, but there's about 83 million new lawsuits pending judgment. So you can see that's a pretty large legal system. But now I want to talk about something we don't talk about that often, which is the complexity of a lawyer's work. Not only is it very technical, but it's completely non-linear. Let me explain to you what I mean about that. So a lawyer might, in the morning, check the status of some of his lawsuits, and then for lunch, meet with a prospect customer. In the afternoon, draft a report for another client, and perhaps at night, perform some research. So you can see there's not a single linear workflow here. And I think that's one of the reasons that the last impactful tech innovation for the legal market was actually Microsoft Word, about 40 years ago. But we believe that's all about to change because of advancements in AI today. So just to give you a few examples, OpenAI estimates that up to 76% of legal tasks can benefit from LLMs. Goldman Sachs estimates that 44% of the tasks can be automated. And McKinsey estimates that 23% of lawyers' tasks can be automated with the existing technology today. So I don't know which of these numbers is correct, but I think we can all agree that the legal market will be one of the most impacted by LLM technology today. Yeah, those are big numbers. And that's why at Lexter we built the Lexter Assistant, which is the only AI agent lawyers will ever need. We leverage the most advanced AI technology to help lawyers with their most technical tasks, like drafting legal documents, performing legal research, due diligence, so on and so forth. 7 out of the 10 top law firms in Brazil are already our customers, and we have top-tier investors that believe in our vision. So since this was a demo, I want to show you a little bit one of the skills of our assistant. More specifically, I want to show you how Lexter Assistant can be used to draft legal documents. So I want to show you how the assistant can be used to draft a complaint. Just to explain a little bit, this skill of the assistant was released a couple of months ago It's being used by 2,000 lawyers in Brazil on a soft launch, mainly focused on solo lawyers and small law firms. Notice that we're looking at Microsoft Word here. So the assistant can also be used as an add-in inside Microsoft Word. And we did that to change as little as possible the workflow that the lawyer is already following. And to show this demo, I want to talk to you about João Silva. João is a Brazilian entrepreneur who was supposed to come to BSV this year. So his flight was supposed to leave on the 6th at 10:50 p.m. He arrived early at the airport, but around 10:30 p.m., the airline announced that his flight was going to be delayed, and he was going to be 15 hours late. So he obviously missed all of his connecting flights, and he arrived at BSV around 24 hours later than originally planned. So he missed all of his appointments. Regardless, he enjoyed the rest of the convention, and when he flew back to Brazil, he sought legal counsel. He wanted the help of a lawyer to seek compensation for the appointments that he had missed. So what I'm going to show you is how his lawyer, João's lawyer, can use Lexter to draft this particular complaint. So the first step is selecting the field of law in which this case falls into, which is civil proceedings. Then we need to select the type of document that we're writing, which in this case is a complaint. And finally, upload relevant information regarding the case. So on the body of the document here, we have the description of the facts as they were provided by João to his lawyer. And with just that information, the assistant can analyze the case, understand all of the legal applications of the case, legal aspects of the case, and then draft an initial version of the complaint. It's important to mention this is just a draft. The lawyer needs to review it before sending it to the client and before filing it. But as you can see, the document is properly formatted, and it follows all of the standards for the Brazilian legal system. So on the first page, we have the introduction, which on the top has the courts, then the parties that are involved, and finally, the type of action that the lawsuit is going to be. Hope you can read some of what's written, because it's all about what's written. But now we have the facts, which tells the story behind what happened. So this is the story that was described by João to his lawyer. Next, we have the merits, which are the legal arguments in which this lawsuit is going to be grounded. The merits also follow a strategy that was developed by the assistant solely based on the facts described by João to his lawyer. I know it's scrolling a little bit too fast, but we have all of the provisions that are applicable to the case for each of the claims that are being made. Also, we have mentions to the Brazilian Civil Code and the Brazilian Code of Consumer Protection. That will be the grounds for this lawsuit. And finally, we have the prayers for relief that contain all of the remedies that João is seeking from the court. So as you can see, with just the facts described by João to his lawyer, the assistant generated a legal strategy and drafted an initial version of the complaint that is fully formatted and that is following all of the standards for the Brazilian legal system. And now, I want to change perspectives a little bit. So after João filed his lawsuit, now it's the turn for the airline to defend. So we're going to show you how the airline's law firm can use Lexter to draft an answer. But this law firm specializes in defending airlines. So it would not make a lot of sense to draft an answer from scratch. So what I'm going to show you is how the airline can leverage all of the templates that they have in order to draft an answer following their preferred argumentation and all of their standards. So the process here is very similar. Starts with selecting civil proceedings, then the type of document that we're drafting, which is an answer, and then finally, instead of drafting an answer from scratch, we're going to use templates. So the first step here is uploading the complaint that João had filed. This is going to be the main source of information for the assistant. Next, we need to type in the party that we're defending. So now we're defending the airlines. It's called Linhas Aéreas S.A. Next, we could upload some new facts, but since the airline did not provide us with any facts, we're not going to upload anything. And finally, we can upload the templates that we're going to use. Now let me explain to you what's going to happen. This is one of my favorite features of the product. The assistant is going to analyze all of the templates that were uploaded, and it's going to extract all of the claims made. Then we're going to cross-reference it with the complaint that was filed by João, and automatically select which claims make the most sense to be used for the merits of this answer. The user can then visualize all of the claims that were extracted, which ones were selected by the assistant, and then make changes if he sees fit. And then once you hit the button to generate the answer, the process is similar again. It generates a fully formatted document following all of the standards for the Brazilian legal system. But what's very interesting about this one is instead of following a strategy that was developed by the assistant, we're now using the claims from the templates from the law firm. So we can follow a specific argumentation. So here we have some examples. It's mentioning the Montreal Convention. We have some quotes from precedents, from legal authorities. So really, we're able to follow a specific argumentation. But it's important to mention that the assistant automatically updated everything based on the information from this particular case. It doesn't just copy and paste the claims from the previous templates. So you can see that the law firm was able to generate a new answer much more efficiently using the assistant and avoiding some common mistakes that we see when we're using templates, because you might forget to update something with the new information. And everything was automatically. Again, this is a draft. It's not supposed to be sent to the court or anything, but it's just a great start for the user. So yes, so this was just a quick demo. This, as I mentioned, is just one of the skills that we have. We're also working with law firms in M&A for due diligence purposes, and we're expanding new skills every week. So hopefully you're able to see a little bit of how lawyers in Brazil are already leveraging AI on their daily tasks. Thank you.
Wow, I thought, like, personally, as a lawyer, I think that was very interesting, very amazing, and I'm very curious to learn more. We have some questions from the audience. The first one that I got here is, what is the difference for the users between using ChatGPT and Alexa?
Yes, so the first thing is Alexa Assistant was built for lawyers, so we can provide a much better result because not only it follows all of the Brazilian standards for the legal system, it was trained on the most updated laws, regulations, and we can find precedents. So the output is a lot more trustworthy because we avoid hallucinations, which are very common from ChatGPT. Also, we're not just a chat. You see, there was a chat interface, but we're using chat and point and click, and we have a platform. So we're trying to get the entire workflow of the user, of the lawyer. So it's not just an output and a text. So with that, we can make the work of the lawyer a lot more efficient.
Great, amazing. And do you have plans to expand internationally and work in other jurisdictions outside Brazil?
So for this year, the focus is in Brazil. As I mentioned, there's 1.5 million lawyers, so it's a very large market. We want to make sure that we capture as much as possible of it. But then probably next year or the year after, definitely thinking about going internationally. We think that our technology is first class, so there's no reason why we should not go to other geographies.
Perfect. And this one is kind of related to the earlier one, but where do you see Lexter in the next 5 years? So you mentioned expanding a little bit international. What else? What is in the pipeline for you guys?
So I said I'm not a lawyer. I'm a customer of legal services. And why did I start the company was I really wanted to make an impact in the entire industry, really want to democratize the access to legal services. So we really want to make an impactful change in the industry. So my vision in 5 years, I want to see Lexter being taught in universities, that the new lawyers will come to the market already knowing how to use AI for everything. So that's my vision.
Amazing. Does it weigh the validity of the arguments based on the result of similar cases at that specific course? In other words, does it use the jurisprudence of this particular court?
So at the moment, it does not yet, but that's definitely something that we're working on. We're working on adding jurimetry.
Yeah.
Bon. That, and then precedent, and we're working on other documents. But yeah, that's on the roadmap, but not yet.
Nice, interesting. Is there traceability to show where the data the LLM sites came from? If it's not, is this in the pipeline as well?
It's not yet, but it's in the pipeline. We want to show you, for example, you could click and go to the Brazilian Civil Code or the Code of Consumer Protection. Definitely, it's very important. On this product, it's not. But on our M&A product, traceability is core because, as I was saying, this is not supposed to replace the lawyer. It's to empower them. So the lawyer needs tools in order to trace what the AI is doing. So it's definitely something very important for us, just not on this particular product yet, but it's definitely coming as well.
Interesting. Does your solution work over invoice? For instance, can I record a conversation and then give instructions to the assistant and have it produce a legal piece?
Not yet. But as we try to go to the entire workflow, that's definitely something we're looking for.
I think this one is particularly interesting. What do you think is the biggest challenge in operating within the Brazilian legal system? As you mentioned earlier, it's a very complex system. So what do you think is the hardest part?
I think the hardest is convincing the lawyers about the benefits of AI. I think like a year ago or a little bit before, no one was talking about AI. But after ChatGPT, I think that every single lawyer wakes up and he has an opinion about it, whether it's I want to use it, or it's all bullshit, or I don't know, or I'm not going to use it, or it's going to get me fired. So everyone has an opinion about it. So I think what's challenging on the market is that we need to educate it on what are the best practices to use it, so we avoid some cases. For example, a lawyer filed a lawsuit and directly from ChatGPT, and there was a hallucination. So it invented a precedent. So we need to educate the market on the benefits, how to use it.
Yeah, that's true. Interesting. There is one here that is also very interesting because you show how to produce a legal piece that will be presented in court. But how would Lexter work for due diligence, for instance?
Okay. So it's very different. It's not inside Microsoft Word. It's actually a web service. The user can log into the web service, then he can, for example, start a new project. Let's say you're on a new project for an M&A transaction. Then the user can upload a batch of documents, for example, 4,000, 5,000 documents. And then there's a drop-down of questions that you can ask for those documents. You could ask easier questions like who are the parties, but then you can ask more technical questions regarding M&A or change of control, things like that. So you can select which questions make sense to be answered. And you can also type in your own question. So you can create your own question. And then when you hit the button to process, then it gives you the summary. So it's basically we're automating that process where usually junior lawyers would fill in an Excel spreadsheet with the content for all of the documents.
Okay, that's very interesting. And how do you ensure confidentiality of clients' and firms' information?
So there's nothing is shared between customers. All of the information that is used by the assistant, it only helps improve the particular user on how to write based on his own writing styles. So that there's a Chinese wall of information between users, so that doesn't happen.
That is very interesting. I think this last question is also very interesting. How's your revenue model? Is it a signature price per law firm, or is it dollar cost per contract draft?
So it's a signature. We start at $20 per seat, can go up to $100 per seat. But the difference from each package is basically the amount of documents that you can write. So it's a signature, but if you want to write, if you're a heavy user, then you pay more for every month.
Okay, interesting. And what other tasks of legal teams do you believe AI has the potential to at least in part be automatized?
I think a lot. Like Goldman Sachs is half of the tasks. The way I think about it is whenever you're thinking about something that's linguistic, LLMs could help. So it's either researching, analyzing, reading, understanding. Then there's the critical reasoning around it, and then generating content. I believe that LLM technology can help. But again, I think it generates a draft. So I don't think it's going to replace the lawyer. So I think it's just going to empower the lawyer. I like to say that we're solving the problem of the white page, where there's the blank page where you don't have anything. So just give you a draft that the lawyer can work on. Yeah, but I think it'll be a big impact, a lot of tasks.
Interesting. And I think you covered that a little bit, but I think we want to hear more about what do you think would be changing the most for the lawyers in the next few years, and how Lexter will be impacting on that?
So when I think about the lawyer's work, we usually talk about the technical tasks like writing, researching. But I think there's a human aspect of the work that we don't talk about that often, which is the relationship between the customer and the lawyer. So whenever you hire a lawyer, there's a trust involved, because you're either fighting someone, or you're either preparing everything so you avoid the fight. So I think that with AI, most of the technical tasks will be automated or will become a lot more efficient, so the lawyer can focus on the more humane aspects of the work, which is dealing with the client, understanding if he's anxious about something, or giving more frequent updates. And also, if we're talking about solo lawyers or small law firms, then the partner will have more time to look for more customers, for example, and increase the revenue. So I think that once those more boring tasks are automated, or at least become more efficient, then the lawyer can focus on these other aspects of the business that are actually very important as well.
Yeah, for sure. And one last question. Do you think that Lexter and other AI products can also be expanded to other legal jobs, not only lawyers, but also judges, public attorneys? How do you see this working in the whole legal framework?
That's a good question. Since we obviously started with lawyers because it's a private sector, we think it's more efficient. We're a startup, we need to grow revenue, and we need to get more customers. But what's going to happen is we're going to make the private sector a lot more efficient, so a lot more lawsuits could be filed. And if we don't do anything about the judiciary, then the number of lawsuits waiting judgment is just going to grow. So we think that it could be used for judiciary. It's just a matter of time, I believe, and then focus. So there's no reason why the same technology could be used. Obviously, need to be updated and changed and for specific specifications, but judge could use it, or I think the judiciary can definitely use it. It's just a matter of focus for a startup. We started the private sector. It's more efficient, and then hopefully the judiciary will open their eyes and then will welcome us to come.
That's great. Pedro, I think we covered almost all the questions that we received so far. So thank you so much for your presentation. It was very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.